Okay, good morning guys, how's it going? Lovely grey day here in Cornwall. I thought I'd talk about a couple of the bad things about the CRF300 because I've had a little while now. Let's put you up there somewhere. Had a little while now, so what am I on? 1600 miles and a bit. And so I've kind of gotten to know it pretty well, and I know what's what pretty much. So yeah, I thought I'd talk about some of the negatives. So what everybody says about the suspension is completely true. I'm about average weight, which is about sort of 12 or 13 stone. I'm not a massively big guy, and even with me, the suspension squishes down at the back about halfway just with my weight on it, and that's with the preload set up to the max. So it is very undersprung, even if you're not a big guy. Got anyone zooming down along here? No, we're good. Let's get a bit of speed on. Yeah, so she is really rather undersprung. I'm at the point now where I need to either upgrade the suspension or possibly upgrade the bike to something else. I'm probably going to upgrade the suspension because most of everything else I like about the bike. Yes, it, on the fast roads it is a bit underpowered, but on the trail I don't find it underpowered at all. It's got lots of lovely torque, so it's really good for climbing up hills. Yesterday we did a huge, great big hill, which was probably beyond my abilities, to be honest, but the bike and the torque and the power did not let me down. Just the grip let me down, and my ability let me down on that occasion. Shit. Woo. Fucking hell. Oh. I made a mountain out of that. So yeah, for Trans-Euro trail, green laning, all that kind of thing. Plenty enough power to have fun, and you can actually use all the power safely without ending up upside down in a hedge, so that's quite a good thing. But yeah, so in terms of the suspension, I think it really is rather undersprung, as everybody says, but I'm just confirming it for you, which means that you end up sort of you're losing a lot of the travel straight away just as soon as you get on the bike. Then of course you start hitting bumps, and you'll get close to bottoming out quite easily. And the minute you're doing any kind of speed over rough terrain, the bike is kind of pogoing around a lot, and sort of it's just very cheap undersprung suspension, very basic. But I had a go on my friend's 250 rally the other day, and he'd done the suspension. He had a YYS on the back, and I think he's done the front as well, and it felt like a completely different bike. And I've had a 250 before, so I know the difference. But yeah, it really does make a huge difference. It's obviously jacked much higher, so I'm going to lose the easy ground reach that I've got currently. But you shouldn't really be riding with your static sag, or sorry, your rider sag at 50% like it is. I'll put the numbers on the screen to how mine is with a stock suspension with my weight on it. That's basically what it looks like. But yeah, I think it's a problem that everyone knows. If you're going to ride it gently, and if you're just trying to get somewhere, suspension is fine. It's not going to let you down in that it's going to stop you from getting places. It's stop you from climbing that hill or descending that bank or whatever. It's just going to hold you back from getting over rough terrain at a decent speed. So yeah, that's all you really need to know, I think. The suspension works, it's just undersprung and basic. Other things I've had, so I had a bit of a cutout issue. Basically it was just randomly cutting out, which looks like this. As you can see there, I pulled in the clutch just coming up to a junction, and there was a sort of a loud popping, puffing sound, and it just cut out. And this was happening quite a bit. Sort of every other ride it would cut out, and a couple of times it didn't want to restart. It started, it just didn't really want to, do you know what I mean? So I did a bit of investigation about that, and there's a couple of things that I'm thinking it probably was. It could have been, I might have been possibly overfilling the gas tank a tiny bit, which leads to fuel being put into the charcoal canister, which then you get all these vapors building up, and that can kind of like make the bike do that. I don't know all the ins and outs, but it could have been that. I don't really think I was overfilling it, but it could have been that. I've dropped it a few times, but I haven't laid it down lots, so I don't see any real reason why you know, that carbon canister is all filled up with fuel and dumping vapors back into the bike or anything like that. But it is a slight possibility. But the other thing I've tried is I've swapped over to the E5 fuel, because I was using the basic unleaded E10. I've swapped over to the, you know, the higher, it's the lower ethanol, I believe, higher octane, I think. But anyway, the slightly more expensive petrol, basically, and it hasn't done it once since then. And I did a great big long ride today, hot, cold, you know, starting it from cold, starting it from hot, all the rest of it. And it's basically, since I've swapped over to the E5 fuel, it's not done it once. It was something that mainly happened from cold, but it has happened hot as well. Anyway, so yeah, that's a grumble. I've told Honda about it, and it is booked in. They're going to look at it, but it is meant to run on the E10 fuel. You know, it's got a big sticker on the bloody tank saying, you know, you can use that fuel. So it's still a problem, even if it is a fuel problem, if you see what I mean. Because I don't particularly want to spend more money on, you know, more expensive fuel on a bike that should run fine with the standard. Anyway, so there's that. One other issue, which is pretty minor and slightly borderline, but either way, I got this bike with basically dealership miles on it. It had like less than 20 miles on it. It was clearly brand new, not a mark on it. So it did have a previous owner, but he basically ordered it, and he had a bunch of other bikes, and then he, you know, changed his mind. It probably just wasn't powerful enough for him, is what I think. Anyway, so it was basically a new bike. But from my very first go over 30 miles an hour, I was noting a lot of bouncing at the front. So the front of the bike, excuse me, was bouncing around, shaking. I just presumed it was a poorly balanced wheel, and maybe, you know, a tyre with a bit more weight on one side, basically. So I just thought it was poorly balanced, and I didn't think too much of it. I figured I'm going to be riding it off-road anyway, and, you know, it's just how it is. But then when I actually looked at the front wheel, got the bike off the ground and span it around, I could see that it was completely misaligned, and it had a big bulge. You know, the actual wheel rim had a big bulge. It's clearly something that you can fix by, you know, adjusting the spokes and doing all that, but it is a bit of an art form, truing a wheel by adjusting the spokes. So I didn't want to tackle that by myself. So again, that's something that the dealership are going to look at. Back wheel's fine, by the way, but I really think it came out of the dealership, out of the factory, with a really quite misaligned front wheel, causing a horrible shaking over sort of around about 40 miles an hour is was the worst area. But any kind of speed really on any kind of smooth road. Wasn't the engine, you know, you pull the clutch in and you can still feel the so definitely was the wheel. And obviously as soon as I saw the wheel I realised, well, that's why. So the wheel isn't round, you know. I know it's a cheap bike, you know, £5 bike isn't a lot to spend on a bike, but any bike you expect the fucking wheels to be round. That's like page one of making a bike, round wheels, do you know what I mean? So I mean, I know I can't be absolutely certain that it left the dealership like that, but the bike had no, you know, practically no miles on it, and looked entirely shiny and brand new when I picked it up. So I really think it did probably leave the dealership like that, and they just had not aligned the front wheel properly at all. Anyway, so yeah, that's my sort of my grumbles with the bike. If you are on a fast road, if you're on a motorway, you're not going to have a great time. It is underpowered. You don't want to be overtaking people when you're doing sort of 60, 70, 80 without really thinking about it, because you haven't got lots of extra. As soon as you get up around the 70 mark, you haven't got a lot of extra to play with. It will do 85 or something, but you know, that's absolutely flat out with your head down pretty much. Excuse me. But apart from that, the bike's been absolutely great, and you really can chuck it around. It is fun. You can throw it around the B roads, you can throw it around the twisties, you can take it on trails with confidence, knowing you can pick it back up again, and the bike will actually get you out of trouble if you get into trouble. It's very, very easy to ride. The clutch is super easy. The gear spread is fantastic. I don't think I really said enough about that when I talked about the bike before, but the gear spread is really good. 1 and 2 super low, so really good for getting up really difficult stuff, or getting down really difficult stuff using the engine braking. And then the other gears are spread out quite nicely, so the 6th gear, well, I think about 70 miles an hour is about 7,000 revs around that area, so you're still, you know, revving quite high to do motorway speeds, but you know, compared to like a bike with 5 gears or something, and certainly the older 250s, yeah, the gear range is really nice for my use in terms of off-road and on-road trails, all the rest of it. Anyway, I think I'll call it quits there. Oh, one last thing I'll complain about. The stickers are only barely holding onto the bike, so if you put a jet wash anywhere near this bike, you're basically saying bye-bye to all your stickers. So yeah, don't do that unless you don't care about the stickers, because yeah, mine just on my very first wash, half the sticker just blew off the side, and I didn't even put the nozzle that close to the bike. It just, you know, it just gave up without even a fight. Anyway, I'm going to sign off there, guys, and I just thought I'd tell you about those hiccups, the cutting out problem, suspension obviously a known thing, and yeah, Honda quality control may not be quite as good as it should be in terms of wheels aligned, and I know for a fact they do not put any grease on any of like the linkage or anything. I haven't done it yet, but I know that everybody says they come just dry, absolutely dry, and you really need to grease up all of the linkage, and anywhere there should be grease you got to do it yourself, because they just like show the grease tin to the bike, but they don't actually apply it by all accounts. But like I said, there's a very good chance I'm going to swap my rear suspension, so I'll do it when I do that. I should have done it by now, but anyway, guys, I'll leave that there. Hope some of that information was useful for anyone thinking about getting one of these bikes. They are fantastic value, and you know, I really like it, but every bike has failings, every bike has faults, and every bike is a compromise. If you expect your bike to be perfect, you're going to be disappointed. Anyway, guys, hope that's useful, and I'll catch you later.